Rob Star Gang, what up? What up? Appreciate everyone join the live stream. Do me a favor, again, just do what Dom34 just said there. Make sure you smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. That's really it. What's up, Antonio? Appreciate you joining, man. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate everyone joining in. Welcome to the Rob Star Report. If you're new here, this is where this is your place to be for, of course. If you're a Carolina Panthers fan, you're an NFL fan, I do a bunch of different takes. I talk about a lot of different stuff. But tonight, we're going to talk about, man, what's some names we can look. Okay. Gotcha. Hold on. My audio is messed up. No, it's not. Okay. My audio is good. All right. Cool. Yeah. Where's my overlay? There it is. What's up, Antonio? Like, subscribe, comment, share the stream, please. Yes, please do. What's good, Tom? Tabletop Laboratories. Appreciate you joining, man. Welcome, man, everybody. Welcome, man. Let's get some vibes going here real quick. Let's get some vibes going in here real quick. Panthers Pride, keep pounding. Appreciate you, Antonio. Alex, Tara Bellion. What's some good names we can look at for next year if we want to get some extra picks for next year? What's some names we can look at for next year if we want to get some extra picks for next year? Are you talking about for this draft class or for next draft class, Alex? If you're talking about for the next draft class, I mean, my God, I haven't even looked at next year's draft class much. I'm just trying to keep up with this year's draft class, much less next. Yeah, I haven't, Alex. When it comes to next year's draft class, I will not be looking at that draft class and breaking it down until next offseason. I have not looked at. I haven't studied enough of the guys yet, and for that next draft class, I'll be tuning in, of course, all season long to college football as always. But yeah, man, there's not many guys that just come off the top of the dome next season. They just don't. Obviously, like guys like Jeremiah Smith, guys that I can really think of off the top of my head, like those type of guys, Ryan, Ryan Williams out of Alabama is an interesting one. Of course, Arch Manning is a guy that, I could talk about next draft class. Lenore Sellers out of South Carolina could end up being a sleeper, right? You got the Tennessee quarterback, Nico. Is it Nico? Can't remember I can't pronounce his last name. I know he's like, it sounds like he's like Hawaiian or Samoan the way his last name is. So, but yeah, man, next draft class really for us, like what we need to be looking at for next draft class. I need to see how this goes for you first, Alex, before I jump to next draft class. So before I talk about the next draft class, let's get in. Let's talk about before we get into that next draft class, let's get through this one first, and let's get through this season, and then next off season we can talk about next year's draft class. Let's get through that. Let's get through the 2025-2026 season first. Appreciate the question though, and I appreciate you joining and subscribing. All right, I see you're a subscriber, so I appreciate that. I'm ready for the draft already. Yeah, I'm ready for this draft as well. Tyler Warren, first round pick. The Manning kid, yeah, of course. There's a D lineman from Florida that is ranked pretty high on everyone's board, and that's a big position need for us. Yeah, but Alex, I mean, that the D line at that point, though, I mean, I'm not saying that we'll be able to solidify that full D line this offseason, but, again, adding more depth to the D line in the trenches is never a bad thing, my friend. So I'll have to go look him up for next season. I'll definitely be looking into Florida. I mean, I'm an SEC fan anyways. I'm a Gamecock fan, so I'll be paying close attention to the SEC anyways. So I'm sure his name, that D lineman, will come up and in my brain. He will be stuck there once I find out who he is. But anyways, again, so yeah, let's talk about it, man. I mean, you see the title, Carolina Panthers must trade down. Let's not overthink it. You see the title, And that's what we need. And we're really going to dive into that today. Uh, we really need to put some context in that story or into this title, right? And I'm really going to put some context into that because I truly believe that I think they must trade down if certain things happen. Okay, I think the Carolina Panthers must trade down if certain things play out through the draft, right? It depends. And when I mean by that, if the Mason Graham or the Abdul Carter is off the board, it's really hard for me to, ladies and gentlemen, say, hey, we should be going, we need to trade down. It's hard for me not to say that because you think about it, there's a lot of guys that aren't going to be there. And I think Mason Graham and Abdul Carter have a very good chance of them both not being there. Right? I do. I think they both have a very good, I think there's a very good possibility that it is. And let me explain why. Right? Dom 34. I'm not taking Tyler Warren at number 8. I'm sorry. I think we got to trade down. Like now, there's teams out there I think we could trade with. I think Miami's one of them. I think Dallas is a team that would be interesting to trade with. I think Arizona is a team that might be interested to trade with. I also think Cincinnati. There's some guys that are in the lower end that are losing some people, and yeah, I just think I think there are a lot of teams that will be interested to move up to that 8th spot due to the fact of maybe a position of need. Would you pull the trigger on McMillan? Who do you want at number 8? So that's a good question. And I'll get that to here shortly. Right. Let me get a poll question up today because I want to hear what y'all think based off a poll question. Should the Carolina Panthers trade the number 8 pick? Hold on. I'm getting a better. I want to get a better understanding from you guys with this poll question. Hopefully, Raheem Sanders, Drock. I'm hoping we get Raheem Sanders at the back end. All right, there's my poll. Then I got to get a live goal up with you guys today. I want to get a nice live goal. I want to get a nice live goal today up. Help support the channel. Of course, as always, there's always live goals every single day that help support the channel, but also goes towards the major giveaways that'll be coming up. Help support the channel and major giveaway. If we reach our goal, we'll do the giveaway right then and this week. And if we hit our goal, these goals aren't hard. Yeah, make sure you pound that like button, hit that subscribe button. I greatly appreciate it as you guys are coming in and out. All right. Would you pull the trigger on McMillan? No, I'm not pulling the trigger on a wide receiver, man. Y'all got to understand that. So hear me out. here's the thing. This is why the Carolina Panthers, I think, need to trade down and stop overthinking it. I think this whole thing is an overthinking situation, right? Because the Carolina, you got to think about it this way: we're staring at a brutal reality here, ladies and gentlemen. We're picking 8th overall in this 2025 draft. All right, that might not get us our impact player that we desperately need. Right? I know the top tier talent of Mason Graham, Will Johnson, Tatoria McMillan, or T Mac, however you want to call him, Travis Hunter, and Abdul Carter could be all gone. Hell, I think even a couple of quarterbacks will probably be off the board, and a wild card like Jalen Walker might even be off the board at that point as well. That is a nightmare scenario, I think, for a team that still has more holes than a sinking ship, ladies and gentlemen. We have to think about that way. So we have to be smart here. Trading down is, I think, the smartest move here. And here's why. Because if this front office and Dan Morgan has any sense, which I do think he does, he will strongly consider it. Because this isn't some overcomplicated draft strategy. It's basic team building knowledge. Carolina doesn't have a roster that's one or two pieces away from contention. They need a full-scale talent injection, right? Trading back gives them more chances to hit on players that can make an impact. Now, the case for trading down is let's say the board falls exactly like, I wonder if I can pull up, let me see if I can pull up a PFF, and let's see if I can get something that I'll make a good example with PFF's draft simulator. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to pull up the draft simulator, and I want to show you, and we'll go through the first 8 picks. Actually, yeah, we're just going to do round 1. Okay. And I'm going to pick for the first 8 teams. Okay. So look at this from a scenario that we're going to be going into. All right. My Discord's going off. Sorry. Okay. See the draft board. All right. So we're the Tennessee Titans. So let's say this draft board looks like this. I think the Tennessee Titans, okay, are going to pick. I think the Tennessee Titans, they're going to pick their quarterback. I think they take Cam Ward at number 1. Okay. I think Cleveland actually ends up taking Travis Hunter at 2. I think what's going to happen here is that New York takes Shedeur Sanders. I think the New England Patriots actually take T-Mac. Then you've got Abdul Carter to Jacksonville. You got Will Johnson, I think, goes to the Raiders. And I think Mason Graham goes to the Jets. That's how I could see this board falling. These top picks right here falling like so. Let me back out a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. There you go. I think this is how you can see the board falling. Now, here's the thing. If I'm Carolina and this board falls this way, that leaves you with either you go Malachi Starks, you go James Pierce Jr., you go Mike Green. You're not, again, we're not taking Luther Burden, Emeka Egbuka, Tyler Warren, any of these guys that are wide receiver tight ends. Forget about it. It makes no sense. When your defense was dead last in the NFL, allowing teams to score up to 31 points a game, you were dead last in run defense. You allowed over 100, averaging 175 yards per game in rushing. and you were 26th in the league in pass defense. And y'all guys are talking about taking a guy like Tyler Warren and Luther Burden and T Mac. Even T Mac doesn't even make sense to me, ladies and gentlemen. But again, why does this fan base continue to think that we need to take a tight end or wide receiver at number 8? Because it blows my mind because we still don't put into the context that yet dead last in rushing yards, that basically almost dead last in passing yards. We were allowing 31 points a game. We were allowing an average of 175 yards on the run defense. And we want to take a Tyler Warren or a Luther Burden or a T Mac. I understand that Bryce Young needs a true number 1 wide receiver. I do. I get it. But before we jump the gun and say, let's get a Luther Burden, let's get a T Mac, let's get a Tyler Warren, let's see how the free agency plays out. Let's see how the NFL combine plays out first. Then we can talk about maybe going after one of those guys. It just all depends on how that how that plays out. Okay. So getting a guy like Luther Burden, T Mac, and Tyler Warren, I'm sorry, they're not even under my radar anymore because I'm looking at this defense cold-heartedly. Would I love to have either one of them, a T-Mac or Luther Burden or Tyler Warren, playmaker on offense? Absolutely. But in my eyes, it does not make sense right now when we're talking about how bad this defense looked, right? So I'm saying if this board falls like this, all right, if this board falls like this, your best options now at this point, because we're either looking at you're either going to be looking at safety here, you're either looking at defensive line, you're either looking at edge, and you're looking at linebacker. So you're either looking at Malachi Starks, James Pierce Jr., Mike Green, Michael Williams, Walter Nolan, and that's really it. Probably the top 3 right here is who you're looking at taking at number 8. I'm not taking a Michael Williams at number 18 as of right now. Again, I think Michael Williams and Jalen Walker are going to be guys that when they go to the NFL Combine, I think they're going to end up being like Trayvon Walkers, where they're in this mid tier right here and end up skyrocketing. James Pierce Jr. could be also a guy that skyrockets. I think Mike Green's also done himself some wonders, especially at the Senior Bowl. Walter Nolan's an enticing pick if we trade back, right? But again, Jalen Walker could end up going up the draft board, right? Is he a solid pick? Sure. Any of these guys are solid picks, in my opinion, for sure. But if you're looking at that draft board and Cam Ward's off the board, Travis Hunter, Shador Sanders, T Mac, Abdul Carter, Will Johnson, Mason Graham, right? If the Panthers have a chance to slide down the board and snag some extra draft capital and still grab a high value player, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they do that? Why again? If this board falls down like this, again, why I'm at? I want a good, clear answer from you guys in the chat. If the Panthers have a chance to slide down the board and snag extra picks and still grab a high value player, why wouldn't they? And right now, if we're talking about a mock draft, we got one trade on the boards, the Philadelphia Eagles. Makes no sense to me. But if a team like San Fran comes calling, or Dallas, or Miami, or Arizona, or Cincinnati, which I can see a lot of those teams doing. Like, picture this, for example. Even another team, the Indianapolis Colts at number 14. Okay? Picture this trade. They trade that 14th pick, right? They're ready to move up to number 8. We move down to 14. Sure, we missed out on Walker, Ashton Genty, William Campbell, Kevin Banks. and all those other guys we just saw, James Pierce Jr., Mike Green, whatever. But realistically, they weren't dying for some of those other guys, anyways. Instead, you could end up maybe landing a Malachi Starks, or maybe James Pierce Jr. does fall, or a Kenneth Grant. Those are three prospects who fit Carolina's needs without the unnecessary reach. Does that make sense? I want someone to tell me. Does that make sense? I don't know. I feel like that should make a lot of sense. Chargers, maybe. I mean, yeah, Chargers could be for sure. They might. I could see the Chargers calling up to get a Luther Burden or a T Mac, because they need some wide receiver help over there. I understand where you're coming from, Dom, for sure. I understand. Right. So again, so let's not pretend that getting additional second or third round picks aren't going to help, ladies and gentlemen, with how thin this roster is. We need multiple swings at adding talent here. Right? Draft capital is king. Draft capital is king, ladies and gentlemen. Like for this 8 pick, you're probably going to get something around I know it says they're not interested, but because this is a draft simulator. But you could pull something, maybe something out your butt like this. You maybe throw in that Dallas pick, uh, give them an extra fourth round, or you go something like this. You offer them a trade. All right, they don't like that. Okay, so what if I go this? Oh, okay. So I got a future second round pick. I got me, and I gave them a fourth. They gave me their 14th and an 80th. So I got an extra, you know, third round pick, something like that. Okay, something like that makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, um, but again, I think that that's how. Like, if again we're talking about how this draft board's going to fall. Again, it wouldn't surprise me. It would not surprise me if something like this were to happen where it falls like this. Um, Hold on, I'm getting my draft board fixed. Fixing my draft board. Hold on. I'm a fix it. Oh, I had Vegas getting Will. No, I had them getting Mason Graham. All right. So then again, um, but again, for Dan Morgan, man, like the draft capital is king. Okay. He's already hinted that trading back at number 8 is not an issue. Okay. Right. Like he's already hinted it. Like the number 8 picks on the table. There's no telling that a team's going to be calling, and they might be coming with the offer that we can't refuse. Again, because we still need all the draft picks we can get, man. They only had 9 selections coming into this draft with a roster that's still looking like a half-built house. Moving back to stack more picks is a no-brainer, right? Morgan himself has made it clear that everything is on the table. He said that. He said that in a recent interview, right? And that he's also said that in a recent interview, it depends on how that board falls at number 8. That there's always going to be options to trade back. And I'm sure someone's going to be calling us. And when he said that to me, it translated that if the right guy isn't there, right? If the right guy isn't there, I expect again the Panthers to working the phones. I expect Dan Morgan to be getting phone calls, and he's he's working the phones. He's working those draft picks to get us that draft capital. He's working the phones to get us more draft capital to help us out because we're going to need it, especially with all the holes we have on the defensive side of the ball of things. Morgan, like I said, and again, let's not forget, Carolina had no first round pick last year after they sold the farm for Bryce Young in 2023. And we basically clawed our way back up in the second round to get Xavier Legette, which actually worked out pretty well. Now they have a chance to repeat that success by playing the long game rather than forcing a pick that doesn't fit. The Panthers need more than just one potential star. They need a wave of young talent. I think if you're talking about building a sustainable future, that's a route you have to go. Right? We got to think about this. We've got to think about the explosive defender scenarios, right? We want those explosive defenders. I mean, one of the most enticing reasons to trade down is I think Mike Green is a perfect example as why we could trade down. I mean, he's down there at number 11. He's not necessarily going to be. He might be gone by the 11th pick. He might still be on the board by the time if we made the trade with like Indianapolis. He might still be there at number 14 for all I know. Right? Mike Green's an absolute monster. Did y'all see what he did to Conley Jr. out of Oregon at the Senior Bowl? I mean, we're talking about a guy that is standing at, we're talking about a guy that's 6'3", man. 250, well, 6'4", 241. I thought he was 6'3", like 250. But he led all of college with 17 stacks last season. I mean, shit, that's not just good, man. That's ridiculous. I mean, here's the thing that's crazy about Mike Green, man. And for the Carolina Panthers, we finished with 32 stacks last season, which put us among the worst in the NFL. So if they really want a real disruptor, I mean, again, Mike Green could be their guy, but trading down means they could grab him and still walk away with extra picks. That's a win-win, ladies and gentlemen, in any GM's playbook. And let's be real, Carolina's defense needs a serious shot in the arm. You got to add a high upside pass rusher like Mike Green. I think that's a game changer. I think same thing for James Pierce Jr. I wouldn't be opposed to a James Pierce Jr. Right? I think he's got a lot of his game that I've watched. Again, the Brian Burns is a perfect comparison. Perfect comparison, size and everything. His tape speaks Brian Burns. I'm not opposed to bringing in a Brian Burns, but hopefully James Pierce Jr. doesn't base himself off potential. He actually shows what Brian Burns was supposed to be for us and continues to have that show that, right? Like I was talking to a guy last night, or not last night, talking to a guy today. He commented on one of my videos, saying about like how Trey Hendrickson's situation is different because the Burns was asking to get paid on his potential, but there was no production, which is right. I think that for like a James Pierce Jr., I think he'll show that Brian Burns potential, but he'll also continue to show that production that we've been looking for. I think a James Pierce Jr. will be better than a Brian Burns. That's just my opinion. I think this is one of the deepest draft classes we've, at least defensively, from a defensive end standpoint, defensive line standpoint. I think this is a weak secondary class. I think safety is pretty strong. I think corners is a little weak. I think linebackers are strong. I think this is going to be one of the best defensive draft classes we've seen since 2019 with like the Max Crosbys of the world and um, who else? I can't even think who was in that 2019 class, but there was a lot of guys in that 2019 class that were absolute studs, right? Um, again, another thing is you could trade down, and I think there's a guy that's, I wouldn't necessarily say he's a first round pick. You know, but you could trade down and get like guys later on when you trade down. Like you could get, I'm not saying he's not a first round pick. Like Nick Amanawari is a guy that I think is a first round pick, but he's not going to go in the first round. Safety out of South Carolina. But again, you trade down, man. Even if you trade down into the later rounds, you can get a true nose tackle in Walter Nolan. Shamar Stewart had a hell of a Senior Bowl. Um, we've all seen Jack Sawyer, what he did in the national championship. Kenneth Grant, and so there is plenty of guys on the back end, even if we trade down, right? Even if we trade down. Like, here's the thing. We've got to think about the big picture because we're trying to build and complete a complete roster from top to bottom, especially on that defense. We're basically doing a complete overhaul, right? You know, when you look at this when we look at the D line, Ashawn Robinson, Shy Tuttle should be out the door. Derek Brown's coming back off an injury, but we've never had a true nose tackle. Like, I would love to trade down and get a Walter Nolan. If Mike Green's not there, you could make the debate, honestly, between Mike Green and Nolan. I think with Ashawn Robinson, who had 5.5 sacks, you get Derek Brown back, you put Walter Nolan in that true nose tackle position, your defensive line is solidified. And then you could go and get a Kyle Kennard, or like, you could get a Kyle Kennard in the second round, or you take Mike Green. And then if you want to get that true nose tackle in the second round, you go after Oman Norman Lott, or you go after Derek Harmon, or you go after Darius Alexander, or you go after Alfred Collins in the second round, right? Or the third. Well, you might be able to get Alfred Collins in the third. But these three guys I know will be there in the second. Deion Walker, you can maybe get him in the third for a true nose tackle. Who knows, right? But let's say you go Walter Nolan and you trade down, you get Walter Nolan, you're going to end up being able to get a guy in the third, a second round. Landon Jackson had a hell of a Senior Bowl. Same thing with Princely, Amon Million. JT still there. You got Kyle Kennard still there, right? Carolina met with Jared Ivey today. Not saying I want him, but they met with him. So there's still talent there, because you got to think about this again. A lot of teams are picking in the top 10, and a lot of these guys are looking for franchise quarterbacks. Carolina already has Bryce Young. We don't need to reach for a quarterback now, right? But we also need to maximize the value of our position. You're sitting at number 8, grabbing a player just because he's the best player available is not always enough. That's what I'm getting at. Everybody thinks it's enough to just go get the best player available. That's not the case, ladies and gentlemen. It's not. Like, we got to look at this from a realistic standpoint. You really need to think about how to build a sustainable, balanced team. Trading down can mean getting another offensive lineman to protect Young, a linebacker to lead their defense, or a dynamic playmaker, right? But again, let's talk about this realistically. Carolina has never won a Super Bowl. Carolina is not winning a Super Bowl next season. This is a multi-year rebuild. They need to stack as many quality young players as possible. Trading down doesn't just help for this draft. It sets them up for a better 2026 and beyond. The NFL is a war of attrition, and we need all the reinforcements we can get, right? That's why I'm making my case that I think we must trade down. I, will they trade down? We won't know until obviously draft day. I think if the Panthers sit at number 8 and all their ideal targets again are gone, again, you're reaching for a second tier prospect would be an absolute disaster. Trading it down allows them to grab high impact players. Again, we're talking about from stockpiling extra picks for more depth. And if they get the right trade offer, they might even be able to move down multiple times. And then you come away with an absolute haul, right? Again, I think if Carolina is so, if Dan Morgan, this front office is serious about building a contender instead of just continue to tread water, you got to make these smart and realistic moves. Again, I think trade the damn number 8 pick. You load up on assets. You start filling the gaps that have held this team back for years. Because right now, the Panthers are not one piece away, ladies and gentlemen. They're a dozen pieces away. The best way to fix that is more draft picks, period. You're going to need to cast a broader net. When's the last time that Carolina has traded back and casted a broader net and in the draft, where they have tried to trade, where they've traded their first round pick and traded back and got to get more draft capital? I can't remember. Now, I want someone to enlighten me because I can't remember the time Carolina's done that. It might have been a couple years now, but I'm really having a hard time remembering the time we've traded back to get more draft capital. I'm really having a hard time thinking about that. I can't remember the last time Carolina Panthers have traded back to get more draft capital. So that's what I'm saying, man. Like, again, we have more holes than just one best player available type of draft. We need to be trading back and draft and casting a broader net, ladies and gentlemen. That's just my opinion. That is just my opinion. And I think if this draft board falls, you got to think about if this draft board falls like this. I think you got to think about moving back. Rock speaking it into existence. He's saying they're doing it now, Clay. In 2025, they're going to trade back now, and I hope you're right. I hope you're right. Harney would hit on this pick. Might. I'm hoping that we have another. I'm hoping that Dan Morgan can start hitting on picks like he did. See, like Miami's there, Indianapolis, Pittsburgh. They're interested in those trades, man. I could definitely trade back for more picks. We have way too many holes on this defense. Yeah. Again, and here's another thing, guys. If you trade back, we talk about the wide receiver position, the tight end position, and you trade back. Let's say you trade in the first. Let's say you trade that number 8 pick. You move all the way back to Pittsburgh. I mean, there's a trade right there. You've got the 21st pick, the 53rd pick in the second round, and you have the 85 pick. You end up having a first, 2 seconds, and 2/3. It's a perfect example. Might be able to do the same thing with Indianapolis. 17% chance. Okay, maybe you go with something like this. You end up going a second and a fourth. Okay, you could do that. Or you go a third, fourth, fifth with their first. Okay. I mean, there's multitude of ways you can go about this, man. I don't know if Miami would do that. Maybe. Okay. Shit. There you go, Miami. I mean, that's building draft capital right there. And you could be able to get, you know, You go ahead, put draft whoever you want at 13, at 48 and 58 in the second round. You can take a defense and offense player, 98, 74. Where's 98 at? Is 98 in the I can't go all the way down because I got the settings on one round. I think 98 is still considered 98 is considered a fourth round pick, if I'm not mistaken. 32 teams, 64. Oh no. No. Yeah. Because it ends on 96. The third round ends on the 96 pick. So that would be the second pick in the fourth round, 98 would be. So again, this is a perfect example as to why right here we should be looking to trade back, especially if their trades are available, especially something like that. Again, I think if we're really going to be serious about rebuilding this the right way, we want to build a contender here. You got to be smart and realistic with yourselves. Like I said, I want to be aggressive. We were talking about this last night. I want to be aggressive, but I don't want to be overly aggressive and then we don't make the smart moves. I'd rather be aggressively smart. I think trading back is actually an aggressively smart move because again, you trade back the pick, you load up on assets. And then that's the way you start filling those gaps that have held this team back for years. You got to think about it this way, guys. We've got 21 guys coming off this roster that are free agents. And I don't know how many guys we're going to sign back because right now, again, we're not one piece away, ladies and gentlemen. I think we are a dozen pieces away. And the best way you fix those dozens of pieces is more draft picks. Point blank, period. Especially if you want to build on the future. That's I just think that is the best way to do it. Guys, do me a favor. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. I would greatly appreciate it. I'm going to get to some of your comments here. Yeah, definitely build it from the ground up for sure. What do you think of the Kellen Moore hire? What do I think of the Kellen Moore hire? We were talking about this. I think I was talking about this the other night with the NFC South Roundtable on Roundtable Sports Tabletop. Here's the thing. I think it's finally a real change. I think it's finally a real change for the Saints. They can move on from the shenanigans. They've been stuck in this whole Sean Payton nonchalant tour for way too long. Moore is the first true reset for them. You get a 36-year-old offensive guru fresh off a Super Bowl win the Eagles. So yeah, he obviously knows what he's doing. The Saints offense has been trash. Like Moore actually knows how to design plays that best fits his players. Unlike this outdated mess that the Saints have been running. Derek Carr might be screwed because I think if Moore has a say, Carr better step up, or that he's probably going to tell him to pack his bag and get the hell out because that offense he will not be babysitting that offense. Kellen Moore is not a guy who's going to babysit these quarterbacks, man. He does not stand for mediocrity. So and you finally get rid of all these Sean Payton leftovers, man. There's no more trying to keep the Sean Payton era on life support anymore there, right? I think Moore is here to build something new for better or worse. I think it's a good hire for them. I think Nicky Loomis, though, the Saints GM needs to back off. I think Moore actually gets to pick should be able to pick his own staff instead of Loomis forcing assistance on him. And that's already a win. Kamara and Alave might actually be used the right way. You got to build your offense around your best players instead of forcing them into bad schemes. And I think for the Saints, their team forgot how to win. Like Moore I think, could help that team win. And I hate to say that as a Carolina Panthers fan, I'm being just straight up with you. I think it was a good hire for them. Maybe he can slap the sense into it. I don't know. I think Kellen Moore is one of those guys who I really think has the potential to be a really good head coach. But I also could see him being an absolute bust. But again, the only reason why I say that was because he didn't do really much at the Chargers. He really didn't do much at Dallas. But look at those two places, right? Again, the Saints are still a mess, though. They've only got like $2 million in cap space. Their offensive line is shaky. The quarterback situation is shit. And the offense needs a full-blown rebuild, in my opinion. So I think Kellen Moore's got his work cut out for him, tabletop. I think it's going to be interesting. But I can see Kellen Moore having a pretty decent year. Got a new kicker later, Eddie. Yep. I talked about him last night, Rock Jones. Talked about him last night. Well, guys, I think that is it for tonight. Again, I appreciate everyone joining the live stream. Do me a favor. Again, do these 3 things right here before you leave. Make sure you do these 3 things. Also, become a member today. Okay. Make sure you become a member today. Less than a cup of coffee a month. Definitely help support the channel as well. Make sure you follow me on all my social media, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook. Make sure you go check me out over there. Make sure you go and drop a follow and drop a like as well there. Okay. I greatly appreciate that. I'm going to make this a short stream tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I am exhausted. I've had a long day, but I was really thinking about canceling tonight, but I'm glad I didn't. So appreciate everyone joining the live stream again. Do me a favor, smash that like button, hit that subscribe button. Again, love you guys. And as always, have fun. Be safe. Keep pounding. I'm out of here. Peace. Have a good evening. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Mock draft. Of course, we're going to do a full mock draft breakdown tomorrow. Tune in. Be there.